What's guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have got, finally, something a little special. This is my summer 2021 seasonal plans. I normally try to leave this fairly late on into when we're getting pretty close to the season because there's always more news coming out. For example, the Madoka Magica side story that we will be taking a look at this season. We finally got the air date for it because I've delayed this an extra day from even when I wanted to record it. We actually have an air date and we now know there's a third season of it coming as well later, so there's always more anime news coming, especially in the weeks of build up towards the new season. I think, with the exception of one show, I have a decent idea of where everything's going. This is all subject to change, of course, as if you've been with my channel before and have seen one of these preview videos before, you kind of know that these are all subject to if who picks them up, if they're actually airing them on time, if there's any special deals, like Koikimo last season aired a week earlier than on Japanese TV, so we were always a week ahead of my Japanese audience, which is kind of weird. But yeah, for the most part, this should be the schedule I stick to as best as I can, as you may have noticed of my recent weeks. But yeah, I've still got to work in, obviously, the Patreon shows. None of them are really changing too much. We're still continuing World Trigger. We're still continuing Local Horizon Season 2. We will be moving on to, obviously, Symphogear Season 3, which is GX, if I remember correctly. I think GX was Season 3. And so I'll be working them all in. There's something else I want to talk about as well in there. But for those of you who have not seen one of these before, hello and welcome to the channel. I'm a British guy who reacts to seasonal-based anime. And as such, every 3 months we have to make a video like this to look ahead to the season, what I'm planning to watch, how I feel about certain shows going in, because as much as I would love to just go in blind and just be like, okay, what anime came out today? Sure, I'll record it in this. I kind of want to know what I'm going into vaguely, not to the point where I know the entire overarching plot of the story and they can't surprise me anymore, but I want to have enough information that I can make a bit of a judgment early on, because there's a lot of shows that I plan to watch in a season, and realistically, I'm not going to be able to do it. And now more than ever, I'm realizing that my time is kind of decreasing rather than increasing, which is a shame. I would love to dedicate my entire life to running this channel and getting it to be the best it can, but that's not entirely possible. And so I'm having to be a bit stricter, even though I have been strict in previous seasons. I don't think I can do more than 5 shows a day anymore. I don't think 5 is even manageable anymore. I did 5 for the Sunday shows this last season. I think I'm at the limit where I don't know if I can necessarily do that anymore, so I might have to go back down to 4, which is going to make Sundays, again, very, very difficult. I don't know why they stack the weekends so heavily. Anyway, what we do here is we load up the analyst pages for the shows that we're talking about. I will go over the synopsis, the tags, a little bit of the VA cast, the studio that's doing it, and things like that. Give an initial reaction, what I'm excited for of the show, what concerns me of the show, things like that. And then we'll move on to the next one. And for reference, when I say we're going to go Monday to Sunday, so we're not going from the very first show that airs, because I don't know what the first show that airs is. Technically, some have already aired in pre-screenings and such, but I don't count those. I think the first show of the season is either on a Thursday or a Friday, so I think this time next week we'll already have started the new season of shows, I believe. I can't quite remember, but we're going to go Monday to Sunday on my schedule, and this is important to note, my schedule. So when I say these shows are on Monday, that means I release the video on Monday. So for a Western audience, these episodes actually release on the Sunday. They air Sunday afternoon, Sunday morning, lunchtime for American users. Just so you kind of understand where I am getting with that. And not to be confused. So, whilst I call them Monday shows, they actually air on a Sunday and would technically be Sunday shows, but I talk in regards to the channel because this isn't me trying to provide a guide to the season, this is me providing a guide to how I plan to watch the season, if that makes sense. So it's more centered around what I'm doing with it. So, just to clear that one up, if you've never seen one of these before. But should be a good time. I don't know how long this is going to be. Probably quite long. The initial recordings are always approaching somewhat close to 2 hours, but I am cutting them down as I take a break in between to rest my voice, take a drink, because this is a lot more talking than I'm used to doing with reactions, because in reactions you kind of need to shut up and listen at certain points. You don't want to be talking over important dialogue because you're just going to miss it. But in this one, it's just me talking. So my voice is going to be pretty shot by the end of this, but we'll give it a go. So we're going to move on to Monday shows and start us off here. So, we've got 2 shows here on a Monday that we're going to be watching. This is the first one, The Detective is Already Dead. The story follows Kimihiko Kimizuka, a young man who 4 years ago became the assistant of a mysterious detective known as Siesta on a hijacked airplane. You know, as you do. Together, Kimihiko and Siesta went on mind-boggling, globe-trotting adventures whilst combating a secret organization. But all that came to an end when they were separated by Siesta's death, and this is Siesta here, I believe. So we have an already deceased main character. Kind of curious how they're going to handle that. In the present day, Kimihiko tries to return to an ordinary, boring life as a high school student. Wait, I thought you said he was a young man. Wait, so are they defining young man as a middle schooler? I would never really call a middle schooler a young man, you know? Like... Yeah, like... Yeah, but maybe I'm just misunderstanding the timeline there, but that doesn't seem right. But things are never that simple, even though the text was already dead. So yeah, so we've got potentially multiple timelines going on here. So with we might be flashing back to previous events that have happened, and then we will be like relating that to what's happening in the present day as he kind of sees the effects of what she was investigating, I guess, at the time. Whether he necessarily tries to pick up that mantle or not from her, I don't know. There's a good chance she might not actually be dead. It might be a fake death, or it might be like misreported or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like if you already introduce a dead main character, the big surprise and twist is that they're not actually dead. But I guess we'll see. Interestingly, I do want to point this out. I don't know if this is just a cameo appearance or if they're actually meant to be like canon characters for the show. But we do have Hololive involved, so Fubuki and Matsuri, which is kind of interesting. I think this is the first show, first just regular anime I've really seen with proper Hololive representation. I think, was it Pekora who was in, or had like a cameo appearance in Hidden Dungeon? Was it Hidden Dungeon? I forget which show it was. But I'm fairly certain there was like a little cameo. This wasn't a spoken line, it was just a design that vaguely resembled her, I believe. I'm probably getting the wrong Hololive member anyway, but yeah, I don't know what their deal is. If anyone has any information on that, please let me know. But 12-episode anime, comedy, drama, mystery, romance, supernatural, all the good tags that you'd expect. Lots of tags with spoiler tags, that's always good. Spoiler tags imply that they're not being very basic with the story, and I like that. Studio NG, who have done some recent stuff we've watched, they did Full Dive, which, not one of their greatest works, but that's mainly because of the material that was given to them, not their animation quality. Uzaki was great. I liked Kimonomichi for the little bit I watched of it. Data Life 3 was fine, I just never completed it. So I've got no real qualms with NG's animation style. That should be perfectly fine. VA cast, I don't necessarily recognize immediately any of these names. I might hear them when they start speaking and be like, oh, that's absolutely this character, but I don't initially recognize them. But a mystery series, comedy, romance, I'm going to guess he probably fell in love with Siesta to an extent, probably. Whether that's actually going to be possible or not. Maybe that makes her death have a bit more impact on him. That would be kind of interesting. Or maybe he has one of these other as a main love interest. Who knows? I guess we'll see, though. But this could be fun. I don't know why it has to be set in high school. I don't know why he has to be a high school student. Why can't he just be... Well, I guess why, because of the demographic, you kind of make it relatable and have them around about the age group of the people you want to be attracting it to. But I feel like high school characters are severely overused when a plot like this could actually kind of benefit from not having high school, if you get what I mean. If you age the characters up to at least college or uni characters, you can at least have a bit more free reign in what they're able to accomplish while seeming somewhat believable, you know? But anyway, that's just my personal gripe with high school-based shows being very prevalent when they don't actually have to be. You know, but anyway, next up, and the second show of the day is the Duke of Death and his Black Maid, or Shinigami Bochan to Koromaid, is the Japanese title that's listed here. I'm surprised they haven't put the English title as the main title for this, but whatever. In a large mansion lives a boy, an aristocrat who is cursed by the witch to let everything he touches die. So instead of Midas touch, everything he touches turns to gold, it dies. Which, to an extent, if you touch a living thing with a Midas touch, you do technically kill them, so it's kind of similar in premise. I think, is that even... I mean, yeah, that I don't know if it's intentionally like the same like gold effect to like represent the Midas touch or something. That might be an intentional reference. I do not know. If it is, that's clever. If not, well, good coincidence. With him is his maid Alice, who, besides serving him, likes to tease him. Obviously, the boy who's interested in her doesn't mind the teasing, but not being able to touch her is painful. Careful how you say that. If they are unable to hold hands, how will their love ever bloom? So yeah, this is it's a romance anime, I'm guessing. Rom-com? Yep, rom-com. No touching allowed. He's got to try and find a loophole to that, right? You'd think? You'd think he'd try and find a loophole. So, Nori Midase is in the cast. Natsuki Hanae, or Hanai, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Very recognizable name. I think he was Odokawa from Odd Taxi. I know he's definitely in other things. I just can't quite pinpoint exactly what they were. I know him as Odokawa because I was looking at Odd Taxi stuff recently because that finale is getting wild. But yeah, this is by JC Staff, and JC Staff normally I have no complaints with them as a studio, and I'll show you why. But this concerns me. A full CG production? I have concerns. Like, I don't know why this needs to be a full CG production. I'm sure it's going to lend itself to the art style and make it its own thing, but I do have concerns. I do not associate JC Staff with CG animation. Like, if you look at some of their previous works that they've done, I don't immediately jump out and be like, oh yes, they've done some of the great CG-based works out there. They've done some great shows. Like, they've done Danmachi, they've done Railgun, they've done Food Wars. Like, they have some really good-looking shows on them. Konosuba, there it is. That was the movie, right? I can't actually see. Yeah, Legend of Crimson, that is the movie, 2019. So they've got a plenty good repertoire of shows. As in Zoroku, I think was severely underrated by a lot of people. I feel like people missed out on that one. Yeah, they've got plenty of good shows. I just don't know about their CG side of things. I just don't know what to expect in that regard, and that has me slightly concerned. Any show that says full CG and is not from a primarily CG studio, like, what was the studio that did Hoseki no Kuni? Was it Orange? I think it was Orange. Like, if that said Orange was doing this, I'd be like, oh shit, this is actually going to be pretty hype. But JC Staff, not going to knock you. You've done plenty of good works, and we'll give it a chance. I'm just hoping, if you're going to commit to full CG, use it. Just like how Zombieland Saga finale used its CG environment and characters in the final concert scene. It utilized all the swooping camera angles that you can do with CG that you can't typically do with traditional animation easily. I hope this kind of utilizes that and doesn't become something too bad. Because this sounds like a good idea. This sounds like a fun rom-com. And depending on how the character is played, depending on how Alice is played, I get the feeling I'm going to like these characters. I get the feeling I'm going to like them. So, he's hoping that it actually looks pretty good, because I can forgive the looks to a point. There just comes a point where it's like, not even the best story or the best characters in the world can save you from your animation quality. So, he's hoping, is basically all I have to say. But that's all on Monday. We only have the 2 on Monday, so now we move on to Tuesday. So moving on to Tuesday, and we have 3 more shows for today. This is the first one, Spirit Chronicles, or Seirei Gensoki. So meet Ryo, a callous, orphaned boy living in the slums. At only 7 years old, he realizes he's actually the reincarnation of Haruto Amakawa, a Japanese university student with a tragic past. So yeah, first isekai of the season already. First new isekai. We have some sequels, obviously, but this is the first new one. While still reeling from this shocking epiphany, Ryo also comes to learn that he possesses extremely potent magical abilities and uses his new powers to solve the kidnapping case of a little girl. So yeah, fairly typical idea. Interesting though that he says at 7 years old he realizes, so he's not conscious of the fact that he's a reincarnation until he hits 7-ish. That's kind of interesting. I wonder if it's like he took over the kid at 7, or he thought he just lived a normal life and then all of a sudden he remembered it. Because it could be like a sense of a bookworm, a mine who just overtook mine at like 4 or so years old or something like that. I forget how old mine actually was at the time, or 5, something like that. Or because it's definitely not like Jobless Reincarnation, where he's fully aware of it as soon as he was a baby. He's like, hang on, this is weird. Why am I now a baby? I'm a 40-year-old man. So, that sort of thing. His good deed is acknowledged, and he's rewarded by being enrolled into a prestigious academy for noble children. Yes, okay, so he saves a little girl, gets enrolled into an academy, probably meets up with that girl in the future as a potential main love interest, if I had to guess. I mean, that seems fairly typical. We do have Matsuoka as our main boy. No offense to Matsuoka, but I almost feel like I know what type of character you're playing just because it's you. I'm welcome to be surprised, but, you know, it is what it is. Just isekai, action drama, fantasy romance, fairly generic, all the tags that you'd expect. Kaide Hondo, I believe I recognize that name from somewhere as well. So this is by TMS Entertainment and WoW World. I've never heard of WoW World. So TMS have done a bunch of stuff, haven't they? Yeah, they're going to be doing Rent-A-Girlfriend Season 2, they've done Doctor Stone Wars. So they've been involved in quite a good few shows. They've been involved in quite a good few shows. Fruits Basket has been their main one, I would say, of recent times after Doctor Stone. Yeah, between Fruits Basket and Doctor Stone, I think Fruits Basket is probably their biggest show. Probably. I have not watched it. There's kind of a personal reason behind why I kind of ended up falling away from that show. But WoW World, I have no idea what they're going to be bringing to this. I've not seen... they've been around a while, okay? They've been around a while. But I've never seen any of their stuff. Apparently they worked on Kotobuki in some aspect. Is this the actual main series, Kotobuki? No, this is the spin-off Kotobuki. Interesting. I have no idea what they're bringing to this production. I don't know if they were just a CG studio that was helping out or not, but... they're working on it as well, I guess, so cool is about all I've got to say. I have no experience with them. I am worried this could just be another generic isekai. We'll see how they want to present it and how they want to go about with the story. It looks like it could be generic, but you know, it is what it is. I'm kind of curious about this tragic past and how that's going to influence him, because tragic past type stories can have a major influence on what happens to the character when they meet certain situations. I'm curious how they're going to play that and how they're going to play that aspect of his character, because I'd like to see it inform some of the way he thinks about the world in a way, if you know what I mean, depending on what that past actually is. But I have hope for that. But again, it's isekai. You guys know I'm kind of isekai trash, so I enjoy this type of thing anyway. I just hope it doesn't become too generic like many, many other isekai series have in the past. So that's my only real worry of the show, if anything. Next up is Uramichi Oniisan. Don't worry, stay with me on this one. I actually have an idea. I have an inkling about this show, alright? Just bear with me if you've never seen this before. So, Uramichi Oniisan. Story centers on a 31-year-old man named Uramichi Omota, who has two sides to his personality. Here we go. He appears as the young man in charge of physical exercises on the educational program Maman to Together. Although he has a fresh and upbeat demeanor on the show, he's actually a bit emotionally unstable. The story reveals the less than sunny parts of life for young adults. So yeah, this show... At first, when I saw the cover of this show, I was going through the list of shows. It's like, okay, Tuesday shows, it would be this. What am I looking at? That was my initial thought when I saw this. I was like, what am I looking at? Is this a kid's show? What is this? I have seen one manga panel from this show, because I saw it was on a forum or something discussing the show, and I was like, what, are people excited for this show? And then there was one manga panel I saw. I've tried to avoid all the others, but I did see one. And I think this is going to be the perfect type of humor for me. I think this is going to resonate with me really, really well. I think this is kind of aimed at my demographic as well. I think overall. So at least I'm hoping it is. And as such, I really genuinely think this... I genuinely am excited for this. And we've got a good voice cast. Mamoru Miyano and Sugita involved. I mean, that's some great support characters right there. Nana Mizuki, I feel like I should recognize you. I feel like I should really recognize you. Why don't I recognize you? Or am I just thinking of another Nana? It's possible I'm just thinking of another Nana, but... No, yeah, that's Tsubasa. Okay, yeah. Okay. I thought I was going crazy there. Yeah, Tsubasa from Symphogear. I knew I should have recognized that name. I was like, Nana? Is that Nana Wills it? Anyway. So yeah, I think this is a pretty good cast. I don't know who our main boy is. I'm sure I might recognize him from something as soon as he picks up. But Comedy Slice of Life by Studio Blanc or whatever, yeah. So they've not done much. So I don't know really how to feel about the animation quality. This being, I mean, they've done some interesting looking work. Let's just put it like that. This definitely seems quite different. But I genuinely do think the comedy of the show is going to be really, really good. I genuinely do. I think this is going to be one of my favorite shows of the season because of that. I hope I'm right, because this could be a really, really, really good laugh, but I guess we'll see. If you have actually read the manga for this show, you'll probably have, and you've been with me for a season or two, you'll know my style of comedy, you'll know what I kind of find funny. You'll probably have a good understanding of whether this show is really going to connect with me or not. So, obviously no spoilers for anything, because we're going to be trying to go in as blind as we can, other than this bit. But I genuinely do think this is going to be one of my favorites of the season, if it delivers on what I kind of expect from it. So, and then finally, the last one is Battle in 5 Seconds After Meeting. I've actually only just added this to the list because this was on my list of shows that I didn't know when was airing, so I haven't really looked into it too much. So this is my first real take on any information on this show. It was just a usual morning, sure. Akira Shiroyanagi, a high schooler who loves games and kompeto, Japanese sweets, okay, has suddenly been dragged into a battlefield by a mysterious girl who calls herself Mion. Okay, the participants are told they are erased from the family registry, involved in an experiment, and gain certain powers. Oh, so it's another death game type thing. Akira is determined to win the game with his newfound powers and destroy the organization. Armed with a power no one expects and his brain skills, the new period of intelligence battle begins. Wait. Am I having an intelligence battle right now, or is that actually not correct? Armed with a power no one expects and his brain skills, the new period of intelligence battle begins. I feel like that shouldn't be there. The new period of intelligence battles begins. Oh, I had a stroke. It's fine. Karikito. Okay, that's a good start. Yeah, it's a death game. It's like Darwin's Game, or it's like The World Ends With You. It's a death game style show. Art style looks kind of interesting. This is by Vega Entertainment and Synergy SP. I have not a goddamn clue on who these are. Nope, not a clue. Vega Entertainment came back after an 18-year hiatus to do a 24-minute movie. This is their first... Yeah, basically a 20-year hiatus for their next TV show. And they didn't exactly do any work... Oh, they had a cancelled show. That was an OVA, though. Okay, it's not so bad. Yeah, I'm very curious about this history. Well, I'm genuinely very curious about the history of this company. And then Synergy SP... they worked on Ape Sun, okay. They did work on Initial D, though. Wait, now is that working them as a studio, or... Oh, no, they were the studio behind it. Okay, that renews my... Oh, they've got a rom-com coming as well. This renews my confidence in it, that it might actually be somewhat decent to look at. I'm still not expecting a lot, but it does look very stylized, and I quite like this style. Like, I do like these designs. Whether this is the same style they're going to evoke in the actual show or not, in the animation, remains to be seen. But the actual, like, I like the way they've done the hair. I like the overall color palette they've kind of gone for here as well. I do quite like the look of it. But yeah, action, drama, supernatural, death game type show. Yeah, it could be another Darwin's Game, basically. As long as they don't pull a Darwin's Game and have a recap after 4 episodes, which was so dumb. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what type of death game this ends up being. I have no real expectation of it. Could be a good bit of fun. Could be some good watch. I don't know if it's going to be particularly gory. It is just action drama. There's no other tags about it, so there's not much information about it, or not many people care to put information on it at least. So I guess we'll see how that evolves over time. But that's it for the Tuesday shows. We now move on to Wednesday. So, moving on to Wednesday, and this is the only show, and it's that time I got Reincarnated Slime, Season 2, Part 2. I don't think I need to talk about this one too much. I mean, if you haven't seen Reincarnated Slime at all, like you haven't seen anything of the series, I do recommend you go back and give it a shot. I think it's a very good isekai. Of course I would, though. I'm the isekai guy. But honestly, Part 1 of Season 2 was incredible. The last few episodes of the season were phenomenal, and it was incredible to watch, and I'm very, very excited for where this second part is going to go. This is a bit of a spoiler character, so if you haven't seen the show, don't pay much attention to this. It's a bit of a spoiler. But yeah, I'm very excited for this. And since we've had Slime Diaries on the Wednesday slot this past season, because this is a split core show, so that's why we've got part 2 of season 2. And we had Slime Diaries, which was kind of like a spin-off, but canon in-universe events with all the characters from the show, and gave characters such as Trainee, Soka, and Soe, Papa Geld right here, my man. Like, Geld became, I think, the most popular character in the Slime universe, like, thanks to that show. I genuinely think he must have done, because him and his little goblin daughter throughout that Slime Diaries show were perfect. Just absolutely perfect. I did a poll, I think, for Slime Diaries as well, and I think pretty much the majority went to Geld as well. It's just how good that part of the story was. So, yeah. I'm very excited for this. Very, very excited for this. I don't need to speak too much more about all this, because you guys know it at this point. And so, yeah, we'll probably end up having a bunch of the Patreon request shows come here on Wednesday. I'm not going to say where I'm going to put them in just yet, because the schedules can still get moved around. I'll be doing it on a week-by-week basis for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then cement them into their proper new time slots. But I can guarantee either World Trigger or Lock Horizon will end up in this Wednesday slot. We might keep it at World Trigger, because that's its current slot anyway. So I might just leave it as World Trigger for now and just see how that goes. But that's it for Wednesday. Very empty week so far. Now we move on to Thursday. So moving on to Thursday, and this is our first proper big show of the day. First proper show list of the day, I should say. We've got 5 shows today. We're starting off with this one, Drugstore in Another World, The Slow Life of a Cheat Pharmacist. Corporate drone Ryeji is transported to a fantasy world where he discovers that he can craft potions at a higher level than his rank should allow. Next isekai, very similar kind of base idea to what Saint's Magic Powers Omnipotent from this season did, of the potions being crafted as more effective. Just kind of borrowing that idea, I guess. Taking advantage of this, Reiji makes a tidy profit, enough to open his own drugstore. Again, isekais and opening stores. I swear, it's the new thing. Like, that is the popular thing that's in right now. Like, so many shows are doing it. An elf who can't aim his bow, give him some eye drops. A dragon who accidentally breathes fire, cough syrup. Reiji's new relaxing life of making medicine for fantasy creatures is about to begin. So it kind of has that same, like, isekai store opening type vibe that a lot of shows have been doing recently. Such as, what was the really chill and cutesy slime one that was recently out? Not Slime 300, the other one that got a sequel announced. I forget it, but you guys will probably know what I mean. We reacted to it here on the channel. One where he opens, like, laundrette and stuff. I forget the name of the show. Anyway, similar idea to that, but it also kind of borrows an idea from Monster Girl Doctor, of being a doctor, or a pharmacist in this case, who treats patients and stuff. In theory, he shouldn't be the one diagnosing the problems. He should probably get a prescription from an actual doctor who says, "Oh, we need a medicine that can do this, this, and this," and then he'll whip it up. But maybe he will be more of a doctor pharmacist, so that he can diagnose and give treatment at the same time. We'll see how they end up interpreting that. Voice cast, I don't initially recognize. I feel like I should recognize Jun Fukushima, but the name sticks out, but I don't remember from what. So comedy fantasy by EMT Squared. They have done Kuma Kuma Bear quite recently. Very much enjoyed that show. In fact. And then the other older stuff I haven't actually watched, so if it's similar quality and look to Kuma Bear, I feel like this will do just fine. Like, if it feels like it should invoke the same style, just with how cutesy it looks, so I'm hopeful in that sense. Isekai Medicine? Wow. I'm not that tired, I swear. Or drunk. Medicine, Kimono Mimi, and Elves. Obviously, you gotta have elf girls. Yeah, this looks like it's gonna be fun, chill. Looks like they can have some fun with different varieties of monsters, essentially, and have some fun with the situations they might get in. I don't think it's going to be quite as horny as what Monster Girl Doctor ended up being. Monster Girl Doctor was... They knew what they were doing with plenty of those shots and plenty of those voice lines. They knew exactly what they were doing, right? This one looks like it's going the much cuter route with it, and should be a good laugh, and I'm excited for it. It'll be if this is the first show that airs of the day, I don't think it necessarily is. I feel like there might be shows that might air before it, but this will be a nice chill way to break up the day at the very least, so I'm looking forward to that one. Next up, we have Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy. I'm not going to try and say the full name. So, Makoto Misumi was just an ordinary high school student when he, due to certain circumstances his parents were facing, gets summoned to the other world to become a hero. So, yep, another isekai genre show. Yep. Why the parents' circumstances have any influence on why he got summoned is interesting. I feel like there's going to be I feel like that's going to be called back to at some point, or this is just completely irrelevant. The goddess of the other world, however, insults him for his ugly face and strips his hero title before casting him off to the wilderness at the edge of the world. So finally, the most realistic isekai in the world, you get reincarnated, the goddess says, get the fuck out. I mean... Yeah, ballsy of them to do that, I suppose. I'm sure that's going to be the first episode thing, and they'll probably play that for a laugh, and this is probably another one of those spoilers that, like, happens in episode 1, where it's like, because I know it's coming, it's going to maybe hit a little differently, but, I mean, don't write it into your synopsis if you don't want it to be, like, you know, part of the appeal of the first episode, you know? But anyway, as he wanders the wilderness, Makoto encounters dragons, spiders, orcs, dwarves, and all sorts of non-human tribes. So yeah, that makes sense. Because Makoto comes from a different world, he is able to unleash unimaginable magic powers and combat skills. Of course, he's got to be an OPMC. But just how will he handle his encounters with various species and survive in his new environment? Join Makoto in this fantasy as he transforms the other world into a better place despite the humans and gods having turned their backs on him. Why have the humans turned their backs on him? I feel like that bit kind of got glossed over. I know the goddess insults him and strips him of the hero title, but does that mean I don't think that intrinsically just means all of humanity just said, get out. Maybe because the goddess banishes him, and all the humans believe in the goddess or something. Maybe that's how they're going to play it. I don't know. But yeah, having the humans turn on him out of nowhere, that seemed to have come out of nowhere anyway. So yeah, we've got a decent voice line up here. Natsuki Hanai, like I said, was Odakawa. Kari Kito is Kate from Shadow's House. Luna Healer from Hidden Dungeon. I believe that was also Kotoko from Inspector, I believe was a Kari Kito. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it was. So I really like her VA. Aine Sakura, I think, was also in Shadow's House. Was she Lou? I think she's Lou. I think. I can't remember. I know you're in Shadow's House because I recognize that portrait. So yeah, decent main voice lineup. I quite like that. So this is action adventure, comedy fantasy, isekai, bunch of stuff. Economics playing a part. Oh, we Spice and Wolf now. But this is by Studio C2C, who did Wandering Witch and Hitorobochi. This is unfortunate. This was decent. This was pretty good. They've done Harukana Receive, so I like some of their works. I like the art style they necessarily go for. So whilst this one doesn't look particularly special, I mean, that look on his face, like Jesus Christ. I mean, this art doesn't look particularly special right out of the gates. We'll see how the show itself animates it. We've got a magic user here. It looks like he's drawing a bow back in order to fire this, but there's no actual bow and string stuff, so I don't know what he's doing there. Weird. Maybe he's just miming the action for his, like, fire ability. I don't know. And then we've got, like, a samurai type, I guess. Yeah. This could be fun. It's another isekai, so I'm bound to find some enjoyment out of it. I mean, yeah. I'm worried about the art style a little bit, and hope it doesn't get too generic, and I really want to know why the parents' situation has any influence on this. Like, he gets summoned because a situation his parents are in? Are they hospitalized and, like, he prays for the ability to be able to save them and then goes to the other... And then that wouldn't work. Why would they summon him to another world if he's trying to save them? Maybe he just wants to escape from his parents from a bad situation? Like, his parents are in a really bad situation and it hurts him to be part of it, so he's, like, trying to escape, in a way? I have no idea. I don't know where that bit comes into it. Could be interesting, though. And a world where, again, he has a struggle of being not accepted by the goddess and apparently all of humanity. And so he's going to side with the typical monster races, I suppose. And that should be an interesting journey for him, I suppose, going along the line. But all in all, could be a fun show. I'm not super excited, but I'm not exactly dreading it either, if you know what I mean. Next up, we have Kobayashi's Dragon Maid Season 2. I don't need to explain this show. I really don't need to explain too much about this. We've got our new girl. There she is. I haven't really seen much about her. The only thing I've seen is, obviously... yes, I am aware of that, at least. But... yeah, KyoAni back again with Dragon Maid Season 2. I feel like this might hit a little differently. And I'm both really excited to be back into this. I'm a little worried just because of the expectation that's going to be upon this. And the situations around the KyoAni fire, which were... when was the KyoAni fire? It was 2 years or 3 years ago at this point. I forget when KyoAni fire was. I think it was 2019. It's either 19 or 18, and I can't remember, but when did the first season come out? There's the OVA, and then there's the main series. Yeah, it was either 18 or 19, and I can't remember. I want to say it was 19, but... yeah, I think it was 19. Anyway, yeah, so Season 2, I'm super excited for. It might be a little bit different, but as long as it can capture some of the same magic as the first season, which is always a hard thing to do with any sequel, is trying to capture that same feeling, or even trying to improve on that from the first season. But I think this show will do just fine. I mean, it's the second most popular show of the season, as expected, really. I'm very excited to go back into the world. I just hope people aren't too harsh on it for the expectations after the first season. That's what I just hope. I hope people can respect that to the very least. But I guess we'll see as the season unfolds. But I am excited for it because I miss these characters a lot. So anyway, next up we have Nighthead 2041. Absolutely no clue. So the story follows the Kirihara brothers, who from a young age were incarcerated in a secure scientific facility due to their supernatural powers, having escaped after the barrier that was preventing them malfunctions. The story also follows the Kuroki brothers, who are trying to chase the Kirihara brothers. So a tale of two brothers, essentially, chasing each other. Why they were incarcerated... they say it's because of their powers, but why? Did they use their powers maliciously, or is it just we can't allow them with powers to roam freely because they could be a danger, you know? Concern. Okay. For the first forum thread to already be throwing out X-Arm as a comparison... you don't just throw X-Arm as a comparison lightly. X-Arm is a sign of how not to run a production, just straight up, and how to make a PR nightmare. That's what X-Arm was. I don't know if that's necessarily fair on this show to immediately give it that comparison. Obviously, I have not seen any of the previews or anything of this, so I don't know if that's a fair case. This is by Shirogumi, who, it says they worked on 86, they were a producer, not a studio, so that's why that was the case. And none of their other stuff, I mean, does this scream full CG studio to you? Yes, it was 8 years ago. But does any of this really scream like, oh, I expect them to work like on a really good production? They're producing some good stuff. Ish. But this could... I don't want to judge it. I really don't want to judge it yet. It says its source is other. What is this based on? Does anyone know what this is based on? Like where it necessarily comes from? Because it's listed as other. So this is... Okay, so is this a remake? I can't tell. It might be a remake. Or it's a continuation from this one. I have no idea. Like, I don't know what this is necessarily... It's listed as an alternate, so is it like a spin-off storyline set in the same universe as that one? Is that what we're going for? I have no idea. I'm curious, but I'm not hopeful. I'm really not. I mean, looking at this, they look like typical CG models. It's very obvious to me. But we'll see what they're like in motion, because the models themselves look decent. I won't complain about the quality of CG models. It's never the quality of the models that has to be concerned, it's the quality of the animation of the models that really starts to throw up some spanners, you know, so I guess we'll see. But like, I'm not optimistic. Of all the shows that I could potentially drop on this day, this seems very, very likely as to one of them, so we'll see. And then finally, final show, this is Mother of the Goddess's Dormitory, or Megami Ryo no Ryobakun. Nagami Kyoshi is a 12-year-old boy who was abandoned by his broke father after their house caught on fire. What a great guy. Leaving him to roam the streets penniless. What an incredible man. Then one day, a girl named Minerva, who finds him lying on the sidewalk, takes him to a women's college dormitory, one known for housing troublesome residents, and asks him to be their dorm mother. Because, of course, that's what you do. You pick up a 12-year-old boy and make him work for you. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you're giving him lodging, you're giving him a place to live, and to keep an eye on him, I suppose. Surrounded by older women and forced to deal with their idiosyncrasies, Koshi starts his new, somewhat ecchi life. That's going to be a goddamn understatement of the year. I can already tell you, without knowing anything more about this show, that is a massive understatement. Somewhat ecchi? No, this show's going full ecchi. I already know it. I mean, there's no way they don't. The first still frame of the goddamn preview is like, yeah, this is it. Told you, it's going to be... Why trains? Sometimes I wonder who puts these tags in. Sometimes I wonder who goes around putting these tags in. Why trains? I don't think this is a show about trains. He might have caught a train to get to the dormitory, but that's probably about the extent of where trains come in. Unless they're saying he's about to run a train on these girls, but I don't think they're going that way with it. That would be one hell of a great meme tag, though, if that's actually what they meant. But this is by Studio Asreed, who have done... they've done Arifureta, okay. I don't think I've watched any of their stuff. Oh, they did Corpse Party. And I guess they worked on Future Diary. Okay. Were they the main studio behind Future Diary? They were. Okay. That's semi-interesting. That is honestly semi-interesting. Okay. Didn't really expect that, but sure. There's Arifureta, yeah. I mean, it's good. We know why we're watching this show, alright? Like, we know why we're probably going to end up watching this show, and why we end up sticking around. Let's not deny ourselves, right? Like, we know why. Also, Yuki Uramichi, I believe she was, what's her face from Super Cub, right? Koguma. This is like one of her first roles, and she's already getting into the ecchi anime. Oh boy, slippery slope, I'm afraid. Yeah, I mean, yeah. We know why we're watching this show. We know why we'd continue to watch this show, even if it's not particularly good. We know why. Agreed. But that's it for Thursday shows. Now we move on to Friday. Moving on to Friday, and once again we have 5 shows today, although a little different this time, and I'll explain why at the very end for the last show. But this is the first one. This is Peach Boy Riverside. So Salvarine Alderac, Princess of the Kingdom of Alderac, makes sense, dreams of traveling the world, a dangerous dream in a land where monsters roam the countryside as they please and humans live behind high, strong walls, okay? So a dangerous world where we're just kind of surviving. But when a chance meeting with traveler Mikoto gives hope to her dream, he shatters it soon after as he reveals himself to be none other than Momotaro, ruthless demon slayer. I mean, I think that you'd like that, right? Because now you actually have someone who can actually protect you on your travel. But whatever. Though horrified by the gore Momotaro leaves behind, okay, that makes sense, Salvarine is convinced more than ever she needs to learn about the world beyond her walls and journeys out, following the steps of the mysterious, charismatic, terrifying boy she met that day. Okay, it says that. There's Mikoto there, and that's her, or him there. Okay, interesting. I don't know if it's just a very effeminate looking guy, or what's going on with that, but sure, we'll go with it. I just want to say this real quickly. Who the hell's this guy? Why is he just, like, so casually dressed? Why are all these outfits just kind of generic as all hell? Like, doesn't inspire confidence. Like, for a fantasy setting, like, you can't get... I don't even know what I'm looking at there, I'll be honest. But I feel like you could do a bit more with the designs. I mean, come on. I like this. This intrigues me. That kind of design intrigues me. So, VA cast, we got Mao. That's good. Other than that, I don't really recognize any of them off the top of my head. So this is by Asahi Productions, who I think we've seen recently. Yeah, they did Heaven's Design Team. Okay. And that show really worked with that art style. I don't know if it's going to work for this type of show, necessarily. I didn't see any of their previous works, did I? No. No, I haven't. Okay. So Heaven's Design Team is my only influence, and that show quite worked for what they were going for. I don't know if it's necessarily going to work for this style of show. I guess we'll see. But yeah, adventure, fantasy, gore, demons. Yeah, that makes sense. Spoiler tags, obviously. I feel like this show would have spoiler tags. It makes sense. I don't know what to think. It doesn't sound like... Okay. My normal genre show, this isn't it. This isn't normally what I would seek out. But, I mean, it could be interesting. I'm curious, like, this... Honestly, the most interesting aspect of this is this art. I don't know if this is actually official art or if it's fan art. I think it's probably official in some way. But this gives me the most hope out of anything about this show, like seeing the crazed side to these characters. Like, if Mikoto is, like, normal and just, like, likable and charismatic, and then as soon as it comes to demons becomes, like, this feral monster when it comes to slaying them, that would be an interesting double-sided personality. I would quite like that, and if that's something that Salvarine can also adapt into, that would intrigue me. I would appreciate that, but all in all, I don't think this is high on the list of shows for today. Like, if I was going to drop a show, maybe this could be one of them, but I need to look at the other ones still yet. Next up, we have the Aquatope on White Sands. Now, this one I'm kind of interested in. So, the anime takes place at Gamagama Aquarium, a small aquarium in Okinawa, an hour's bus ride from Naha. Kukuru Misakino is an 18-year-old high school student who works there, and she knows about the secret of the aquarium. Sometimes you can see mysterious things. Okay. One day, Kukuru meets Fuka, standing in front of a water tank with flowing hair and a tear rolling down her cheek. Fuka has given up on her dream of becoming an idol, and she has run away from Tokyo to Okinawa. Wanting to find a place to belong, Fuka earnestly asks to work at the aquarium. Anime follows Kukuru and Fuka as they deal with the issues of the secret aquarium and a looming crisis of its possible closure. Okay. Seems interesting. I feel like I should recognize Azumi, but I don't quite know. Miku Ito, I feel like I should recognize as well, but whatever. So yeah, this is a PA Works production. That's interesting. They did Day I Became a God, which was ultimately a disappointment. It also works on Apare Raman, which is a series I never got to start. So PA Works does some good-looking stuff. I'm not concerned about the quality of what this show is going to look like. They've done some good-looking stuff in the past. They really have. It is a completely original work. That's interesting. Yeah, it looks like it could be fun. I think this was over on Mal rather than on this. But there was like some queries as to whether this was potentially... It's not tagged as romance, is it? No, there's no romance tag to it. There was someone asking if there's potentially some Yuri connotation into this series, and it's possible, I suppose. But I don't think that's going to be anywhere near their primary focus on it. It doesn't seem likely anyway. But it looks like it could be quite interesting to go on a journey with. That's really kind of all I have to say on it. Like, it's decently popular as well. Like, for a completely original work, therefore having no basis and no initial established fan base necessarily, to be the 9th most popular show of this season, actually impressive. Like, don't forget, three of those top 9 at least are sequels that already have massive backing. So to be number 9 as an original work, it's not too bad at all. Maybe it is PA Works, or maybe I just don't know the creator of this. Like, maybe this director is someone I should recognize, or maybe there's some staff or whoever the original creator is like someone I should actually recognize, perhaps. But yeah, people seem decently excited for this, so I'm mildly excited as well in a way. Next up, we have Sonny Boy. So the first episode of this is already out, and I think you can go find it on certain sites. But the regular TV broadcast starts in a couple of weeks. Yeah, 19 days, nearly 20 days actually from time of recording. So Sonny Boy is a sci-fi survival series with a stacked 36 student cast of characters. Uprooted from their middle school lives, okay, middle schoolers, these students end up in another dimension and have to fight to survive. So is it another death game type thing? Hey, Aoyuki's involved, okay. I mean, she's in everything. It's not listed as a death game. Is Isekai... I suppose it is Isekai, right? Get transported to another world, you have to fight to survive. I don't know if they're fighting each other, or if they're fighting as a group to survive against the world. It seems more like survive against the world, rather than fighting amongst each other's, like a Hunger Games type scenario, but whatever. This is by Studio Madhouse. I don't think I need to introduce Madhouse, Overlord people. I think most people, when they think Madhouse, will probably think Overlord or Chihaya Furu. Chihaya Furu, there we go, I can speak. Place Further in the Universe was fantastic. No Game, No Life, fantastic. God, I want more of this show. One Punch Man. My Love Story. I want to go back and rewatch this show. I seriously want to go back and rewatch this show. I need to find time, obviously, but I really, really do. So yeah, Madhouse, established studio. I'm sure this is going to look just fine. I quite like the stylized look of this as well. Like, I think that's a really cool poster art. Like, yes, like, half of it's not even used, but I think that kind of is the point. So, I quite like the look of it. I do. Character designs are a bit interesting, but overall, I think I'm excited to see where this goes. This is another completely original work as well, so I'm excited. I am excited, and we'll see how that first episode does. If you have seen the pre-screening for this, no spoilers as to what you actually saw, but did you think that as a first episode it was an interesting concept that you were excited to see, or was it an immediate turn-off for you and you feel like it's not as good as you kind of hoped it was? Please let me know your thoughts down below if you did manage to catch the pre-screening and such as well. Because I imagine that version is still up. I mean, as soon as it's on the internet, it exists there forever. Someone will keep it somewhere. So I'm sure you can absolutely go find it if you're interested already anyway. We're just going to wait for the actual first episode to air on, by the looks of things, Funimation. Judging by that, Funimation has give us the synopsis for it. Okay, and then last of the new shows of the season is Scarlet Nexus. Solar calendar year 2020. So, last year. A grotesque organism called Others have begun eating people. Oh, lovely. To take down this new enemy, the Other Suppression Force is formed. OSF, okay. Saved by this elite team as a child, psychokinetic Yuito withstands the training to enlist. On the other hand, prodigy Kasane was scouted for her abilities, but Kasane's dreams tell her strange things, dragging the two into an unavoidable fate. I have no idea what I'm even looking at for some of this, I'll be honest. So this might be the first show, considering it's only 5 days, I think this is actually the first show of the season that we'll be watching. I think this will be one of the first. If it's not the first, it will be one of the first, that's for sure. Action Supernatural. Voice cast, Junior Inoki, I feel like I should recognize you. I can't remember what from. I think you might be Deku from My Hero, honestly. Interesting designs, I suppose. I don't quite know. You look kind of dumb. I'm sorry, mate. You do look a little dumb. Could be interesting. So this is by Sunrise, and they worked on Symphogear, right? If I remember correctly. They did Wave Listen to Me. Where is their Symphogear stuff? Because I'm fairly certain they worked on like early Symphogear or early Log Horizon or something along those lines. I remember Sunrise being involved in something. Where are they? There's Love Live. Or I might be just mixing up studios. I might just be mixing up studios at this point, but I could have sworn they were like involved in Log Horizon or something. So no, or Sympho? No. I'm thinking of another studio entirely. Forget me. I genuinely don't know who I'm thinking of in that instance. Satellites, that's what I'm thinking of. I mixed up Sunrise and Satellites. That's my bad. So yeah, they're mainly just Love Live. Okay. Not super optimistic. Feels like it could be generic. I hope it's good. It's Bandai Namco and Funimation as producers. Yeah, I'm not super excited. I can't say I'm going to hate it, because, I mean, the concept as a whole is, like, it is very played out. It just depends on how cool the abilities are and how interesting the characters are and how good it looks, really, is what it comes down to. We'll give it its fair shot, though. As per usual, we always give a show a fair shot. But I'm not super enthralled about it, if we're going to put it that way. And that's actually all the currently airing shows for Friday that we'll be watching. The Friday slot is actually also Higurashi Sotsu's slot, but as originally planned, and didn't really get to last season in spring, we are not going to be watching Sotsu. I did watch Go. That was my introduction to Higurashi, because I was like, oh, they're remaking the series for a newer audience, so maybe it's going to be a nice way to jump in. Then it turned out to be kind of like a retelling sequel mix type thing, so that if you're a new watcher, you can jump in from that point and continue onwards. And if you're an older watcher, there's new information for you to pick up and process along the way. I could just go straight on into Sotsu, but upon recommendation by a lot of people, and also my own personal feelings, we're going to be going into the 2006 original Higurashi, and therefore we will be starting When They Cry right from the beginning, back in 2006, with the original series, and we'll be going through all of it, basically. We're going to go through all of it in succession until we get back to Sotsu. I'm not going to rewatch Go, I'll do that in my own time, but then we'll get to the point of Go, and then we will watch Sotsu sometime after that in our journey. I wanted to start this last season, like I said, but we just never got around to it, and so... yeah, whilst I am familiar with the universe and what this show does, I'm very curious to see how it was handled back in 2006. Like, I'm very curious. I think I've heard that maybe this is, like, more gore and shock factor than it is the unnerviness of the remake. Or sequel, I suppose. Whatever the go is to you. That's kind of what I've heard. I'm curious to see if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, it's been 15 years since this show came out, right? So yeah, basically 15 years. In fact, it's been just over 15 years. I'm curious to see how it holds up after all that time. And I'm curious how... Yeah, I'm curious how it's going to be. I actually don't know if this is on Crunchyroll or on Funimation. I genuinely don't know where to watch this show. I haven't actually looked that far ahead. If we can't find it on one of the big streaming sites, I do have alternatives, don't worry, but I normally try and go on the official places just because it's easier to find them, easier to catalog, and it just looks better for the channel if we're actually watching from the official source rather than something that's technically illegal. So, but that's what we'll be doing. We'll be starting 2006 version instead of Sotsu, just in its same time slot. If I decide for whatever reason to keep up all 4 of the other shows on this day, I might move this show to a day that's less busy. So I might change it to a Monday show, for example, since that's only 2 shows on that day. But depending on how many shows I drop will determine whether Higurashi stays here on the Friday slot or if I move it about once we get more established. But for now, it will take up Friday. So yeah, but that's all of Friday. Now we move on to Saturday. Moving on to Saturday, and we start off with another sequel. So this is Villainess Season 2. My Next Life as a Villainess, or Roots Lead to Doom. They're calling this series X, essentially, but this is the Season 2. Very excited for this. Very much enjoyed the first season. Very, very much enjoyed it. It's going to be nice to be back with these characters again, having some more fun. I love the dynamic that it has. I think that's a new character right there, so it looks like we'll at least get some new characters involved in this. But it was a very, very good laugh. I very much enjoyed this. Not surprising that Silverlink got the sequel for this, in all honesty. I think it was very, very well received. Male harem and female harem, because yes. This was a very good show. I loved the comedy of it. It was dumb enough, but not so excruciatingly dumb that it hurt. Katarina Kleis was a great character for this. I really like Mary. I really do. I like her character a lot. But all in all, solid show. Very excited for Season 2. If you have not seen Season 1, I would recommend it. Give it a go and see how you feel about the premise of it and how the comedy hits for you. And yeah, just a fun little story out of it as well by the end. I'm curious to see how they can top themselves really here for Season 2. Next up, we have the case study of Vanitas. Now, this is one that I've had people in my Discord mention. I think Q especially did mention this one, and there was other people as well. This is one of the more talked about shows of the season, hence why it's the 6th most popular. So, case study Vanitas. Rumors revolving around the Book of Vanitas, a clockwork grimoire of dubious reputation, draw Noe, a young vampire in search of a friend's salvation, to Paris. What awaits him in the City of Flowers, however, is not long hours treading the pavement or rifling through dusty bookshops in search of the tome. Instead, his quarry comes to him, in the arms of a man claiming to be a vampire doctor. Okay. Thrust into a conflict that threatens the peace between humans and vampires, will Noe cast in his lot with the curious and slightly unbalanced Vanitas and his quest to save vampire kind. Seems interesting. It's a split core show by the looks of things, since we've already got part 2 listed, so that's good. That gives me hope in how the pacing's going to be. Natsuki Hanae again, also Kaito Ishikawa, so good main cast right there. We've got Aikiano there as well, Inori Minase. That's a solid lineup. I mean, your first 4 characters that are listed here, very solid lineup, I must say. This is by Studio Bones, and this is another reason why I got very interested in the series as well. Same studio behind Escape the Infinity, a show I very, very, very much enjoyed. They've also done stuff like Howlin' Tuesday, My Hero, so they're an established studio, right? But the idea of a vampire multi-core show by Studio Bones, that already has me very, very interested as to what this series could potentially be. Drama, mystery, supernatural, vampire, steampunk, yes, as expected. Set in Paris, so nice to see more European settings for anime series. We've had London thanks to Moriarty the Patriot. Now we're going to Paris. I wonder if we're going to get any set in Germany or something like that in the future. I'm sure. I think anime is starting to... I don't know if it's necessarily changing more and becoming more common now, but I feel like anime obviously wants to set it in Japan, because it can help local areas in Japan, and since that's your main demographic, it kind of helps. But I think anime are realizing you can use other settings, other than fantasy settings. You can use real-world locations from around the world to maybe introduce your audience to those locations, and those customs might be a good way of introducing it as well. So I hope more shows look to other places around the world to set their shows, provided they can actually not fall into the stereotypes of the shows too much and can actually be genuine about it. That at the very least would be nice. But yeah, this looks very, very interesting. People are excited for it. I see a lot of things I can like for it. Like I like vampire stories, sure. It's not like my favorite genre of all time, but I enjoy vampire stuff. We enjoyed Noblesse somewhat recently. And all in all, I mean, it looks pretty interesting. That grimoire seems kind of cool. You can see the steampunk setting here with some of the flying ships and the building structures. Yeah, it looks like it could be a lot of fun. Well, maybe not a lot of fun. I think that's the wrong word for it, but it looks like it could be a very enjoyable watch, is what I meant to say. And as a result, I'm quite excited for what this could have on offer in the future. So, yeah, color me excited for what this could potentially do. Next up, we have Girlfriend. So Naoya Mukai has loved Saki. Is her name actually Saki? It is actually Saki. Okay. I was like, is that a typo? No, her name's Saki. That's an unfortunate name. Since grade school, and when he finally accepts his feelings, he's at his happiest. Nice. We actually get a confession. But one day, a cute girl named Nagisa Minase confesses to him. Not wishing to choose only one over another, Nagia chooses to go out with both of them? What will be of this love triangle that challenges morality itself? Dude literally selected the harem route, huh? Okay. I mean, I respect the hustle, but, like, how the hell are you going to pull that off? Anyway, so Junior Inoki, recognizable name. Takahashi Azumiwaki, I feel like I recognize as well. I don't recognize Ayana. I recognize Ayane Sakura. I think she was Lou. Okay, that's a solid voice lineup. That's a very solid voice lineup. Tezuka Productions, who have done some stuff I recognize. How Not to Summon Demon Lord Season 2. Daishin Shimomura, Quintessential Quintuplets, Dororo. Yeah, so this is a good studio for this show. I believe. Rom-com Slice of Life. No ecchi tag. No signs of anything of that type. This could be good. This could be really good. Now, it says he goes out with both of them, right? And good on you, man. I mean, if you can get two, sure, why not? But is that him doing it on the sly? Is he, like, secret about it? Is he, like, hiding it from the other girl? Because then it's getting a bit iffy. But is Saki really just going to turn around and say, oh, you want another one? Sure, why not? Like, I don't feel like many people would be like that. It's like, I know people have open relationships and such, and good on you if you can have an open relationship. That's not for me in the slightest. But there's a difference between an open relationship and knowingly dating someone else whilst you're already in a relationship as well. It's like, there is a difference. And I'm kind of curious as to what way it's portrayed in that sense. And also, you don't have to say yes. Like, that indecisiveness is not wanting to pick one or the other. That's a bad sign, really, in a relationship, just saying. But honestly, do you know what thought just came into my mind? I'm fairly certain there's a hentai about this. Like, I'm being serious here. I'm fairly certain there is a hentai with this exact same plotline. Right? I'm not going crazy, right? I mean, if any of you happen to know the title and want to out yourselves as... but no, I'm genuinely serious. I think there is a hentai with this exact premise. Why not? Sure, why not? I'm excited for this. I genuinely am excited for this. Now, this is... Hang on, let me just double check that. That says it's going to be released in 7 days, and that means... Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I just got confused a little bit there, because I saw July 2nd, not 3rd or something, so... yeah, I think that's the correct date. The show should come out on Saturday. Yeah, this could be interesting. I'm very, very, very curious as to how they play this off. Also, why are there 4 girls instead of the 2? Don't tell me he manages to get a harem of 4, because Jesus Christ, dudes, like, ugh. I just hope he's not a bad male MC. Okay, that's my only hope, that he's not the typical male self-insert MC that we're used to in rom-coms like this. If he can still be an interesting character in his own right, the show will do just fine in my book, regardless of its morally questionable idea. Yeah. So, we'll see what that ends up giving, I guess. Next up, another sequel, Standing on the Meaning of Life Season 2. If you told me I was going to watch this sequel when I was first watching the first one, I would have told you you're full of shit, honestly. I really did not think much of this show when it started. But over time, and particularly towards the end of the first season, I started to get more invested. I genuinely did. Like, I can't deny that. Whether that interest is going to stick through all the way to the end of this season, I don't know. I have doubts about that. Maho Film is the same studio, right? Yeah, it is. By the grace of the gods. That's the slime show I was talking about with the laundry one. Grace of the gods. There we go. We came full circle. Yeah. This is me taking a punt, really. Like, this is me giving it a chance, thinking, okay, you mildly interested me with your first season. Let's see, now that you've got a lot of the more pointless stuff out of the way, let's see what you can do now that you have a lot of things established and you have more potential to go. Like, that's my thinking with this second season. If it takes too long to get to a point where I feel like we're actually making some progress, I might probably end up dropping this one as well. I don't want to drop a sequel, but this one's very much on the edge. I'm only watching this just because I did get somewhat interested in season 1. Somewhat. Not my most interesting show, I don't think, that I watched of that season, but it was enough, is basically what it came down to, so we'll give it a chance. But if it comes down to, like, I like every other show of the day, which is likely, Villainess is definitely not a drop. Vanitas, I don't think will be a drop. Kanojo probably won't be a drop. This is the weakest of the 4 so far, and we've got one more to go, so if I have to drop for time, this will absolutely get dropped for time, I think. I'm not that invested in it. But it depends also on what this does. So this is a Dungeon of Black company. Kinji had it made. A swank apartment, a real estate empire, and enough cash to lounge around living the good life. After a freak magical accident, he washes up in another world. Oh god, it's another... Why are they always these guys? All but enslaved to a crooked corporation. In a fantastical land where money is everything, there's only one way for an Earthling to get ahead. Make your fortune by any means necessary. Dragons, goblins, and the occasional dubious potion won't stop Kinji's quest for the world's biggest bank account. The Black Company is open for business. I have no idea what I'm watching here. I have no idea. Mal's in this, okay. He's an anti-hero. That makes sense. I mean, a Dungeon of Black Company? Wanting to make a fortune by whatever means necessary? He sounds like the anti-hero type, that's for sure. I have no idea what to think. So this is also by Silverlink, who are doing Villainess as well this season. They're also doing Jahy as well, I might point out. So they've got a lot going on right now. They're also doing a Fate movie. So, again, Silverlink doing a lot. But Silverlink have been crushing it. Like, Boy Riverside, fantastic, you've got a sequel coming. Life as a Villainess, fantastic, you've got a sequel. Misfit Demon King's Academy, I think that got a sequel. Yes, it did, so it got a sequel as well. Yeah, there it is, in fact. Why are there 2 listings for it? What are the differences between these 2 listings? Oh! Oh, hello! It's a split core sequel. Ooh. I didn't know this. I didn't know it was a split core sequel. Oh, damn. Okay, I just got so much more excited for that show. Never mind. I'll talk about that one on Discord if you want, but... Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, this looks like it could be fun. Comedy fantasy. Definitely feels like he's going to fill that anti-hero role. I'm curious to see how ridiculous they want to get with this. It is another isekai, so I'm at least going to give it some interest, because I'm me. But yeah, I'm very, very curious as to what they want to do with this one. Like, it does seem like they could have some pretty dumb fun with some of the premises of this, but I guess we'll see where they ultimately end up going with it. yeah, I think that's really all I have to say on that one. I don't have too much more to say. But based on that, I think Million Lives Season 2 is the most likely to get dropped, unless something really weird happens with Vanitas that just doesn't connect with me, or Kanajo has a really shitty male MC. More than likely, Million Lives is going to be the one that gets dropped here, if I have to. So, anyway, that does it for Saturday. Now we move on to the final day. Oh god, it's Sunday. So finally, we move on to Sunday. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Sundays are always the busy day. It's because anime stacks the weekend up very heavily, because that's the time when most people will have time to actually watch anime, because anime comes out around about anywhere between like 11 and 2 a.m. in the morning. So if you're going to be up that late, you don't want it to be on a weekday, because a lot of your audience, potential audience, will have to get up for school, have to get up for work, or something along those lines. I would have assumed that. Well, actually, yeah, summer would be the one time where I'd expect that to maybe change, just because you've got summer holidays for a lot of the students. So you'll at least have that demographic available to you, and that's why I feel like maybe in the summer it's easier to maybe have your show in like the weekday position, and the weekend's not quite as important, unless you really want the older demographic that's working as well, more than likely. But this happens every season, and this Sunday is no different. We have 7 shows listed for this. That's after I've already cut down one of them from my initial list. I cut down Ori Tsushima, just because I don't know what the hell that show is going to be, but I'll check it out in my own time some point after. Like, I'll do a video on it, maybe. Or at least attempt to record a reaction on it, depending on what ends up happening with that show, but it looks just so bizarre, I don't know if it's even worth my time, so I just cut that one off immediately. But we're going to start here with Remake Our Life. Hashiba Kyoya is a 28-year-old game developer. Nice. With his company going bankrupt and his losing his job, he returns to his hometown. Not so nice, I apologize. Looking at the successes of creators of his age, he finds himself regretting his life decisions as he lay distressed on his bed. I know how you feel, mate. But when he opens his eyes, he finds that he has travelled 10 years back to the time before he entered college. Will he finally make things right? This is a story about a failed person who is given a second opportunity to follow his dreams. So this very much sounds like a very similar premise to Real Life in a way. Not quite the same, obviously. Real Life was kind of like, oh, you get a pill and you kind of like take on that appearance, but you still have obviously all your memories and stuff intact, and like it's only for like a year. I don't know if this one's just like, oh, you've gone back 10 years back in time with all knowledge of that time. Now you can just have another go at it, like entirely, and just follow it through to completion. Seems like an interesting show. We've got Arakoga in the show. That's nice. This is by Studio Feel, who we have definitely watched stuff before. They did Drop Idle Fruit Tart, which I do regret dropping. I was having a lot of fun with this show. It just kind of became like a time constraint thing. So one day I would like to go back and complete this. Mighty Morcom Snafu, they've worked on Hinamatsuri, Suki Gekurai. Like, they've done some good stuff. They really have. So I'm not concerned about the look of the show in any way. Comedy sci-fi, as expected. So yeah, this really just reminds me of a slightly different Real Life, which isn't a bad thing. I quite enjoyed that series. Kind of curious how it's going to work out, but it is a female harem, apparently. It's kind of low rated, though, so it might just be it looks like it on the surface, because it does. But if he's seriously trying to get a second opportunity, he probably wouldn't go that route necessarily. It might come across as that, but that's about it. Seems interesting enough. I don't really have a lot of expectation for it, but it should be interesting at the very least. Maybe more of a not necessarily chill type show, but just a relaxed and just character-driven show, I think, is what it's probably going to end up being, and that would be nice. And I'm hoping that our main boy here is actually I'm hoping for a good character journey with him. That's what I'm realistically hoping for out of this. Next up, we have Remain. The anime story centers on Minato, a boy who stopped playing water polo due to a certain incident in the winter of his 3rd middle school year. We'll get into that, I bet. He picks the sport back up again with a new team when he starts in high school, but the fledgling team runs into many problems. So yeah, we have a sports anime based around water polo. I know immediately what you're saying to me. You know my reputation with sports anime. You know how I feel about sports anime. Why did I even bother putting this on the list? It's a good question, and I have one word for you. Well, 2 words. Studio Mappa. or Mappa, how you want to say it. Like, this is the reason why I'm giving this an earnest shot. Because I have said for so long, sports anime aren't bad. They actually have decent character stories woven within them. They just all look terrible, for the most part. The studio doesn't put enough effort and care into it like the original creator puts into it. This is why this one could be different. Because we now have a studio that has been absolutely crushing it for the past year and a bit. Possibly even longer. Although for me, it's been the past year that I've really got to know the studio. So that's why I'm super excited for this. Because this is a show that actually has passion behind it in terms of its animation quality now. At least I hope so. I hope they just didn't give it to like the B team in the studio or anything like that. I hope they give it the same care and attention that they've been giving like Zombieland Saga and Jujutsu Kaisen and all these other shows that they've been killing it on. That's what I'm hoping for. If it does, then this could be one of my favourite sports anime that's ever come out, because we now have a studio that actually cares. Hopefully they resort to a lot of excessive CG, but even if they do, I think Mappa will pull off CG really well. They've shown it with Zombieland Saga. They know how to use CG and get the most out of it. So, all in all, for a sports story, an original sports story at that, that's what's interesting. This is an original story. Masafumi Nishida, have you actually done anything else that I would recognise? No. You did Tiger and Bunny. I don't know what Tiger and Bunny is, so I don't know if I'll necessarily be cancelled for saying that. And people are like, how do you not know this show? I don't, okay. But yeah, an original sports anime with Studio Mappa behind it? I mean, sign me the hell up, right? Like, this is what I'm talking about. Studios can sell a show. Like, if I see a show with Shaft working on it, despite the weirdness of the show, like Assault with a Bouquet or Pretty Boy Detective Club, that gathers major interest, because you're like, what is a big name studio like that doing on a show like this? What am I missing here? And Pretty Boy Detective Club is something I do want to go back to at some point. I genuinely do want to watch that show. We didn't get time because of just scheduling, but I do want to give that show an honest go. And the same goes for this, because this could be amazing. Like, this genuinely could be quite amazing. And I'm very, very excited for that fact. And as all of you know, I've been saying this. As soon as a sports anime with a decent studio gets picked up, I'm probably going to like it. I think I'm going to like it. I have no real interest in water polo as a sport. I don't really understand any of the rules of it. I don't know much beyond that. I really don't. But because it's Mappa, I want to know what it's about. So that's just the power of a big studio behind it. Next up, though, we have Kageki Shojo. The Koka Kageki Musical Drama Academy is a high school that teaches musical theatre like that at the Takarazuke Review, and splits its actors into those who play male and female roles. I have no idea what any of that meant. Ai Narata is a former idol who becomes a Musume Yaku, female role actress, and meets Sarasa Watanabe, a simple farm girl who is an Otoku Yaku, male role actress. Okay, so it's all female groups, but they're split into male and female actresses' roles, I guess. I think. Am I understanding that correctly? I have no idea if I'm understanding it correctly. I really don't. So this is just listed as drama, acting, musical. Yeah, could be interesting. This art is basic but interesting, I suppose. Is the best way to put it. This is by Studio Pine Jam, who I do recognise. They were behind Gleipnir and Just Because in Games. Okay. So their earlier work's great. Not so much. Maybe we're back to normal. Do it yourself. That sounds like a fun... Actually, hang on. Sorry, I'm going off topic real quick, but... Okay, I'm excited for a new show. Never mind. Don't worry about that one. King Records being the producers means that King Records is probably something to do with the music behind this show. That's Hanazawa, interestingly. Yeah, King Records worries me because they're one of the copyright red flags when it comes to anime. Anything with Cygames associated with it is a red flag. Anything with King Records is a bit of a red flag. just because of the music. King Record, and that makes sense. Music is a pretty big thing for copyright companies to go after. Obviously, since we have no audio, I'm not too worried, but you know, I'm always thinking about these things. I really am. Like, I still keep track of Molebeat's actions over social media, and I have done ever since May last year. So for the past year, I've been constantly thinking, okay, what's Molebeat's been going after recently? Thankfully, no recent shows have really been going after it. It's a lot of the older shows, like certain like old Eurocamp stuff and things like that, but they haven't been doing anything recently, so we should be fine. But I mean, of the shows, probably not high on the list of shows that I'm going to be interested in keeping up with. But we'll give it a chance. See what the if it is musicals and operas and such. It could be interesting. Could be very, very interesting. As long as they don't go the Gekido route and trying to overcomplicate it with some mysterious element, we should be pretty fine. Although I think this is going to be like more slice of lifey than Gekido's like sci-fi and mystery stuff. So I guess we'll see. Next up, we have how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom. This is one I've heard a lot of. Like, I feel like I've heard this title mentioned a bunch, so I have some interest in where this might be going. Suddenly summoned to a fantasy world and betrothed to the princess, Kazuya Soma is crowned the new king after providing the royal family with impressive advice. So, isekai, right? Yep, isekai. And is already married to the princess and is now the new king. Wow. To rule the kingdom, he's taking the non-traditional and very human route of administrative reform. In a realm of Dragons of Elves, will this revolutionary's unique path prove effective? So this actually might be a type of show that I have been speculating about its potential for a while now. So when we see, like, fantasy-based stories and world events that change, you never normally see it from the ruling person's perspective. You always see it from the hero who's fighting on the front lines to defeat the threats, and you kind of just see the effects of what the rulers do on the populace. But if he's the king of this kingdom, we are now actually following a ruler through how he manages his day-to-day life and his kingdom. That's something I've actually asked for in previous shows, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we actually got something like that? So, it's a very popular show as well. Like, it's the second most popular non-sequel, because don't forget, the first 3 shows are all sequels. Number 4 is the first show I mentioned, Detective is Already Dead. That is the most popular new show that's not a sequel. This is the second most popular. So there's some good support for it. I like the idea of it. Action, adventure, fantasy, romance. JC Staff, we've mentioned them before already, but they've done some really good stuff here and there. And since it's not a CG production, I'm sure it's going to look just perfectly fine. I'm excited. I am genuinely excited for this. And should make a very interesting Sunday because of it. Got Nori Minase on the voice lineup as well. Anyone else more noticeable as well? Yui Hori's on there, okay. Jun Fukuyama's on there, Mao's on there, okay. Got some good VAs behind it. As long as our main boy Kazuya is actually decent, I think I'm genuinely going to enjoy this. I genuinely do. I think I'm going to really enjoy this. I guess we'll see how it ends up going. Yeah. So that's a realist hero. Next up, we have... I don't even know what this is. So, Decide Traumerei, the animation, or DCTM Toromera, I think is another name that I've got listed here. This is what I wrote it down as. I'm just going to call it Decide, because I think that's probably easier. So, the story is set in Shibuya and centers on Ruhei. As a child, he looked up to his older brother, but watched him perish in a mysterious incident right before his eyes. Now a high schooler, Ruhei shows no outward signs of the trauma of that nightmarish incident and spends most of his leisure time kickboxing. One day while kickboxing, he encounters a creature that calls itself Triss and is bitten by it, resulting in him having a strange dream. I have no clue what the fuck is going on with this. Like, this is one of those shows that's like out there, like it's like, what am I watching? It's full CG, so concern. Immediate concern. Big old fucking gun. I like that. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So this is by Studio Sanzigen. They've done Bang Dream. Is that a good thing? They also did D4DJ. D4DJ was CG, right? It was. Apparently D4DJ was actually really good. I never got around to it, once again, scheduling. But apparently it was good. They also did Promare the movie? Is that true? They did Promare movie? Oh, they're a producer. Trigger actually did Promare, I was about to say. I think, compared to other full CG productions, I'm less concerned about this one. Because I feel like Bang Dream stuff uses a lot of CG as well. So they have a lot of experience with it. So... And D4DJ apparently was pretty good. So honestly, I'm not too concerned about the CG animation as I would be with others. Now, why the source is other, please let me know. Because it doesn't seem to be an original work based on that. Is it based on something else? Because I've never heard of D-Side Traumerei or anything. But it's listed as the animation, so it implies that D-Side Traumerei must exist as something else out there. Is it like action figure lineup or something? Something similar to what what was it called? Frame Arms Girl or something like that, or Frame Arms Girl, whatever that show was called. Is it something similar to that aspect, or yeah? Let me know a bit more information on that. We also have Aoyuki as a main character. I mean, she's everywhere. Let's be real. But I mean that helps sell the show. That's for sure. Yeah, this could be interesting. Like, this could be a surprise of the season. I'm not expecting much from it. It's not very popular. It is full CG. But it's by a studio who I kind of trust with CG to an extent. And it looks kind of interesting. So I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb and say this might be one of the more hidden gems of the season. Depending on how the animation goes. And depending on how the premise of the show goes. But I think we might be looking at a bit of a hidden gem here. Potentially. I guess we'll see, but I'm just going to call it now before anything happens. Next up, we have Madoka Magica Side Story Season 2. And this is just Season 2. We also have Season 3 coming. And that will be the final season, I believe. Hence why it's called Final Season. So we're starting this one much later into the season. So like over a month away. But it's Madoka. You guys kind of know what you're getting into by this point. If you haven't watched the first part of the side story and you've seen the original Madoka story, please come have a look. It was very, very good. I very much enjoyed the first time with it. I will need to rewatch it, though, before we get into this one, because I feel like there's some important information from the first part that does kind of need to carry over. I just need to refamiliarize myself with everything that's going on here, and the characters and such, because a lot of that information will be gone over my head. We got more Mami content last season, so I'm immediately happy with this series, but I guess we'll see what ends up happening with this half. And the fact they've already got a third season planned as well, which will be releasing end of 2021, I think they said. So yeah, they might release it like 1st of December. Like maybe they'll start on December. I don't know. I don't know quite what their plan is for that release date, because they just said end of the year. So still this year, but they didn't say exactly when. So technically, I guess this makes it a split core show, because it would have to be split core to still air in this year. Actually, yeah, it still has to be split core if they actually want it to start in 2021. Or it's a direct continuation after this one. That's also possible, but I guess we'll see. But the fact that we got a third season announced before the second one's even started airing, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. And then we come on to the final show, and this is Jahy-sama. So again, this is another show that will be starting much, much later into the season. I don't know why these ones are starting so late into the season. I'm kind of curious as to what necessarily would facilitate that, because it's very rare to go against the grain of shows releasing obviously not with the seasonal lineup. Like everyone starts at the beginning of the season and runs for the season, then that's the show over. Very few you like start 4 weeks in and then just continue on from there, or 5 weeks in, I guess. In this case, yeah, it is a bit weird, but I have hope for this. So the Great Jahy, the Dark Realm's second in command, cuts a frightening figure, feared and revered by all. But when a run-in with a magical girl results in the destruction of the precious mana crystal, the Dark Realm falls, transporting the newly puny and powerless Jahy to the human world. Unfortunately, plotting the revival of the Dark Realm from a cramped, crumbling one-room apartment is no easy feat when you have rent to pay and a job to keep. So, it reminds me of Devil as a Part-Timer, to an extent. Like, it captures a similar sort of idea of former, like, Dark Lord, essentially, coming to this human world and having to take on responsibility that the normal world has and realizing what that's like. So, I'm interested by this. It's a very, very popular series as well. I mean, another tanned female lead. I mean, after Nagatoro, I'm not surprised that this type of show probably has some popularity. Comedy, ecchi, slice of life, supernatural. Slapstick comedy, that makes sense. Henshin for transformations. We got transformation sequences. That'll be fun. Yeah, this feels like it could be like another Nagatoro style show, except without a senpai to bully, probably. We got Hanazawa in there. We got Aikeano in there. Yoko Hikasa is another name I feel like I should recognize. Naomi Uzora. There we go. I can say your name. I probably still butchered it. I don't recognize you, but I'm sure when you open your mouth, I'll probably hear something. Well, I'll hear something. You know what I mean. I'll hear other characters maybe you voiced before. Yeah, honestly, I'm excited. I'm excited for this type of show. It looks like it could be some dumb fun. Again, weird that it's starting so late, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad because it means that of these 7 shows that I have listed here, it does mean that I only have 5 to worry about early on. So I'll record those 5, figure out which ones I'm keeping or dropping, and then I can just add 2 more afterwards and come back up to 5 potentially. Because of these 5 shows I've talked about, I think realistically I might drop 1 or 2. I think realistically I might drop 2. And then that will make way for Madoka and Jahy to immediately replace them, and then we're back to a 5-show day like we have been all of last season. Which is a lot, but I think I could pull it off. For like one day. I think I can pull off 1 5-day per week. I think I can just about manage that. We'll see though. But it depends on how the other shows do as well. If like Remake Our Life still good and Remain's still good and everything about that. So I'm actually kind of thankful that this and Madoka are a month back because it makes it a bit easier to handle scheduling for this Sunday because Sundays are goddamn busy days as per usual. But that's going to do it for all the shows that I plan to watch. There is one more show I do want to briefly talk about here though. So this is the last show I just wanted to briefly talk about because it does have a start date in July 23rd, which is it's a Friday. So in theory, this would potentially join the Saturday lineup of the season, but I'm not 100% certain since we don't have like the actual date and stuff coming into it. But this is the Idaten Deities Only Know Peace. So gods appeared when humanity was on the verge of destruction due to the work of demons. Deities called Idaten fought and sealed away the demons 800 years ago. Nowadays, the Idaten have no fighting experience and they live peaceful lives, but now the demons are reviving and the battle between gods, humans, and demons is about to begin. So, kind of interesting idea, and the reason why I kind of want to watch this is because it's Studio Mappa. Again, studios sell shows. At least to me, they really, really do, and so, something like this, the fact that there's nudity is intriguing me already, this show looks crazy, and it's Mappa animating it, so I'm interested. I don't know where it's quite going to fit yet. It will probably fit on the Saturday lineup, in which case Saturdays might get a bit busy. Saturday's got some good shows on it. Saturdays might get a bit busy. I might have to move some of these shows. I'm going to have to do some shuffling this season, I think, unless some shows actually just don't live up to the hype that I hope that for them, which is entirely possible. We always drop a few shows every season. We normally go down. We drop anywhere between 10 and 30% of shows that we start normally for the channel. So it's to be expected that we'll drop some of them, but I'll probably have to shift around some dates just to make it all fit so I don't burn myself out. But I am very interested in this show. Like I said, because of the studio. Yubihori is part of it though as well. Do we have any other characters? No other character listings. There's not much information about this show, basically. There's just not that much information about it yet. So, action adventure fantasy. It just looks like it could be some crazy fun, and that's kind of what I'm here for. Megami Ogata, I feel like I recognize your name. I think you were in a show that I've watched. I just don't remember which one. I feel like I recognize your portrait. That's why. I just can't remember what show that possibly could have been. But anyway, that is all the shows that we have to watch this season. We've got a lot of them, basically. Like, a lot of them. And my voice is, as you can imagine, my voice is pretty shot. I've been talking now for, well, on and off now for the past 2 hours. Like, this is a 2-hour recording for me. I'll cut it down, obviously, and we'll see how long it actually ends up being, but it's still going to be a long video because there's a lot of shows to talk about. I think they're getting longer and longer each season as well as I find more things to talk about with each one. But hopefully that gives you an idea of how I'm feeling about the current season. Helps you break down a little bit of what type of shows you're interested in. As always, please leave your comments down below on what types of shows you're highly interested in, what shows you think might be your anime of the season, or something that you've been longing for a long time. So a show adaptation that you've been like, yes, finally it's happening, for example. If there's any shows there that you think are going to be pretty terrible, I can think of maybe a couple. Please let me know as well. But yeah, if you want to come discuss some of these shows in more detail as well, I do have my Discord channel, which is linked in the description of every video I've ever done on this channel. Well, mostly every video on this channel, I think. I don't know if the early ones necessarily had it. I don't know if I had my Discord created by then. I think I did. And so we'll have dedicated text channels for all those shows when they start airing. What I'll be doing is, as soon as I watch the show for the first time in the first episode, ready to obviously record it and actually have it up, I will be creating a text channel for those dedicated shows. We can discuss the show at length on there as well, which I think is a great way to have a good discussion about the show without having to worry about YouTube comment section. Because I like the YouTube comment section, but it's not the best way to have a back and forth dialogue, I don't think. Especially not for a larger audience to necessarily watch. So, yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. Like I said, let me know your thoughts on the season, and hopefully this summer season can be another great one. We crossed 1,000 subs in the spring season. That's incredible. Thank you everyone for your support. I didn't think we'd quite hit this after the shaky start that we ended up having after the channel deletion in May, and hopefully we can keep going on to bigger and better things. My goal is to hit 2K next year. I don't think aiming for 2K by the end of the year is realistic at all, but I would like to maybe hit 1,500 by the end of the year. I think that's doable, and if we can hit that, then 2K by summer next season, or summer next year, I think should be quite doable as well. So I'm very tentative to set goals, but let's try and get 1250 this season and see what ends up happening. So thank you everyone for watching. Until next time, see you guys later.